Okay, so let's do a problem from chapter 4, and this is the one that you should have had, and we'll go ahead and go over it. So what we're doing is weighted average. Weighted average, if you think about it, is kind of like if you got 100 on a homework and 100 on a test, that doesn't mean that they're each worth the same. Or let's say you got 100 on your homework and a 50% on your test. That doesn't mean you have a 75% average because the tests are typically weighted much more than the homework. So kind of looking at the same thing here. When we're looking at units of production or equivalent units of production, what we're going to do is we are going to include 100% of the material or whatever it happens to be that was completed and moved on to the next stage. And then we're going to add to that the items that are still in that work in process times the percentage that they're done. And the theory behind that is that you can essentially say, okay, 75% done. So that means that basically 75% of those costs have been incurred. So let's take a look at what we've got for this problem. So we are making fruit drinks, and this is where we are. So let's go ahead and think about what our weighted average would be here. Now, we have in materials 374,000 that were completed and transferred out. So we're going to go ahead and add that. That's our first number. So 374,000. And then we've got 88,000 that are 75% complete. So I'm going to go ahead and take 88,000 and multiply it by 75%. So 66,000. So for materials, my equivalent units of production, 374, is 440,000. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the conversion. For our conversion, again, we have 374 that were completed and transferred out. Now, we also have work in process, again, 88,000, but instead of being 75% with materials, they're only 25% complete with conversion. So it seems like they add most of the materials first and then do some sort of conversion that incurs costs. So I have that 374 I'm going to start with, and then I have 88,000 times 0.25, 22,000. So let me add that to my original 374. Okay, so for that one, I've got 396,000. So equivalent units of production, materials is 440 and conversion is 396. The second part of this is computing the cost per equivalent unit for the blending department. So in this case, we are going to have our cost of beginning work in progress for materials. Let's just look at materials first. So we have beginning work in process of 30,400. And then we have an additional cost of 326,000 that was added throughout the process. So if you think about it, for materials, you started at the beginning, I think this is June. So you started June 1st with $30,400 in materials in your department, whatever, I think blending department. Throughout the month, you added an additional 326,000. So for that, we have 356,400. So that's our total cost. Now, remember, we have 440,000 equivalent units that we just calculated. So per unit, I'm going to do 356,400 divided by 440. So my equivalent unit is going to be about 81 cents, a little under 80 cents for materials. So if we're looking at conversion, we have 10,800 that we started with at the beginning of June. Throughout the month, we incurred an additional 230,076. So we have 241.56. Now again, our equivalent units of production was 396 that we just calculated. So that leaves us with 61 cents per unit. The third step in this is applying the cost that we just had to what is left in our work in process and what was transferred out. So let's talk about first what was transferred out. Well, we know that 374,000 units was transferred out. Now, our cost per unit for materials was 81 cents. So let's look at that. So we've got 374 times 0.81 for materials. So 302,000 was the cost was transferred out for materials. And then for conversion, we had that 0.61. We had 228, 140. So let's add those together. So for transferred out was $531,080. So let's talk about what's in our work in process. So again, we had we had equivalent units of production of 66,000 in materials, 66,000. I'm going to multiply that by my 81 cents for materials, so 53,460. And then my equivalent units for conversion times 0.61 was 13,420. So let's add those two together. So we have 66,880 left in work in process, and we had 531 that was transferred out to the next department. So I just wanted to show you the cost reconciliation, and this is just to check yourself. So the cost of the beginning work in process inventory was 41,000. I think that was given to you. And then that was the 30,400 plus the 10,800. We added a total of 556,760. So total cost to be accounted for 597. And then here we have the cost of ending work in process, and we're adding what we calculated as the cost of units transferred out, and that equals. So they tie out. So then you know that you are correct there. So again, this is a difficult problem, but I hope this helped. If you need anything, let me know.